There are 4 questions that if you can answer these 4 questions with solid answers, you will be on the right road to good classroom management. Now, the first thing I want to do is to dispel a myth. There's no such thing as perfect classroom management. When you start comparing yourself to other teachers, you're doing yourself a disservice, because here's what's actually happening. It's good to go observe teachers. It's good to see how other teachers do things. But when you observe a class, you change the dynamic of that class, and what you're seeing is not necessarily what always goes on in that class, and I guarantee you, you're not seeing everything that goes on in that class. So when you end up comparing what you know about yourself, you're only comparing it to what you don't know about somebody else. You don't know what that class is like when you're not there. You don't know what that class is like every day, moment in and moment out. All you know is about that little snapshot that you are looking at and comparing yourself to. Try to avoid that. But I do encourage you to watch other teachers and pay attention to how they manage their classroom. Now, the first question, I told you there were 4. The first question is this: what will you be doing while the students are working? You have several choices. You could be grading papers, you could be at your computer, but you could be doing all kinds of things I actively monitor. And what that means and what that looks like is me walking around the classroom, looking over their shoulder, making sure they're on task, providing guidance, suggestions, and sometimes pushing them towards the right answer when needed. This is what I do, and I do it constantly. I rarely sit down in a class. I am always on the move, always moving from one student to another. Sometimes, if there's room, I will sit next to the student for a moment and kind of get a feel for how their thought processes are working. This is your classroom and your assignments, the work you've given them. You need to know how well they're receiving it and how well they're able to perform at the tasks you give them. So actively monitor. Let's look at question number 2. What will your restroom policies be? And I know I'm controversial on this. I don't let students go to the bathroom in my classroom. I just don't. Our classes are about 47 minutes long. If they cannot go 47 minutes, I simply tell them, you probably need to see a doctor. My policy is no bathroom. You can go between class, after class, whenever, just not while I am teaching. That's the way it works. Now, my campus, you're not allowed to go to the restroom in the first 10 minutes. You're not allowed to go to the restroom in the last 10 minutes. And during the classes that have a lunch period that fall in the middle of it, you can't go to the bathroom then anyway. At least half the class, every class period, your students are not even allowed out of the classroom by the campus direction, not by mine. Why do I do this? When I started teaching full-time, I had this naive idea that I would just let students go to the bathroom when they needed to go because they're almost adults, right? And they can handle that. No, they cannot. They are not capable of handling freedom of going to the bathroom whenever they want. They will leave your class and they will not come back until they feel like it, or they will leave your class and just not come back. Because I set that tone at the beginning, it's an understood, non-negotiable that we just don't go to the bathroom in Mr. George's class. If you're in a block schedule situation, I get it. There probably does need to be some leeway to go to the bathroom. So I just extend the campus policy for all day for my classes, and no one can come and go to the bathroom out of my class. One of my children has diabetes, type 1. And one of the ways we discovered it was the report that he was having to go to the bathroom a lot. And one of the things I tell my students is if you can't make it 47 minutes in a classroom without going to the bathroom, then I'm going to call home and alert your parents and let them know what the situation is, because there may be something serious going on. So that is how I present it to the students. There's no argument. There's very little discussion. From that point forward, that's just the way it is. Question number 3. How will you handle minor disruptions? How are you going to do that? What is your procedure for dealing with those small things that occur? You know, the phones are out inappropriately and they're being used and you're trying to teach. Someone is talking while you're talking. All of those things have to be answered. You need to know how you're going to deal with minor disruptions. Many times, the very minor disruptions can be ignored. That's right. You just let it go and keep teaching. Now, there are times when things become a power struggle or a situation that needs a little more attention, in which case I deal with it directly. I may pause instruction briefly, but I deal with it and then I pick up where I left off without ever missing a beat. And generally that takes care of the situation. Now, there are other things you can do. You can have a slip of paper that alerts them. However, you need to know how you're going to deal with that. And so if you can answer that question about how you will deal with minor disruptions, you're going to be on top of things. The fourth question, what is your most effective redirecting method? Or when you redirect a student, how do you do that the most effectively? You're going to learn this with time. If you're a brand new teacher, you may not have a redirection method yet. You may only have theories of how you're going to do it. You may not have actually participated in that process yet. But you will learn your most powerful redirection method, and it's different for everyone. For me, one of the things that I do is Proxy. I use a proximity situation, whereas I walk in close to the student, and sometimes I'll tap on the desk or I'll tap on their shoulder and just kind of refocus them on what needs to be done. There are other times when, for instance, if a student is using foul language, my number one go-to comment is, "Hey, my ears are bleeding, quit it." And they usually apologize, correct themselves, and move forward. My goal is that in every redirection that I do, I give the student a way to fix it themselves, fix the problem themselves. It empowers the student to take control of their own behavior. It also empowers the student when you present them a choice of consequences when things continue to go wrong. You give them a choice. You let them make the decision of what the consequence is. And that is always beneficial because you are putting the power into the hands of the young person who is learning to grow and learning that there are consequences. And when they get to choose what those consequences are, then that is a benefit as well. Now, I will also say this. Nothing is more effective that I have found than calling home. Especially if you've laid the groundwork at the beginning of the year and done your proactive calling and explaining how excited you are to have your students in your class, and talk to each parent before school gets underway really good, so that they know that you are connected with them. There is very little that's more effective than that. So I would encourage you to build that reputation, build that relationship with the parents, so that when you do call, action will take place and you will see a change in behavior the next day. Those are the 4 questions. What are you going to do when the students are working? What's your bathroom policy going to be? How will you handle minor disruptions? And what is your most effective redirection method? Those are the 4 questions. If you can answer those 4 questions with solid answers, you are well on your way to a well-managed classroom. I enjoy learning with you, I enjoy teaching with you, and together we can take over the world.